Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of the 3 More Points podcast. I, of course, am the host, but we're going to try and do this episode today in a slightly different way where we're going to allow big producer Baz, Harry, to kind of lead the way a little bit here. As you can see, I've got a massive, fat-looking grin on my face because Chelsea happened to win a game of football at the weekend, didn't they, Harry?
They did.
And we thoroughly enjoyed watching this one, didn't we? It was entertaining. We weren't perfect, but we managed to beat a team after going down to 10 men, a team that are good, a team that press really well. I thought Chelsea were relatively good.
It's always good watching Chelsea win. I would say that the last 15 minutes are about as fraught as it gets when you're a fan of a football side and the referee decides to add on 10 minutes for no reason.
Isn't it funny how the last 15 minutes of this game actually was probably like from the 90th minute onwards? Like, how on earth did that game go on for so long? Where's he managed to pluck those minutes from, by the way?
I don't know.
Secondly, I actually saw afterwards the reason why Sanchez just somehow got the ball.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
So apparently...
I read this to you. That's how you know this.
Did you?
Yes.
Well, can you read it out for us again then?
I can't. I can try and recite it. Basically, what happened was he gave the penalty and then the ball had gone out, but the penalty was the decision. So when he went and overturned the penalty, rather than reverting to what it should have been given that the ball went out, it's actually just a drop ball because the penalty got cancelled, basically. Yeah.
So why was it... Why? If it was a drop ball, then who did he drop it to?
No one. I just gave it to the keeper.
Like, this is what I'm on. If it was me, I'd just get the big boy Evan Ferguson up in there and I'd be like, right, go and use that 6'4" Irish frame of yours and, I don't know, kick someone. Why?
Yeah, I mean, they'd scored from a corner like not long before that, so...
Exactly. It's like they bowled it. Like, why did Brighton not want that drop ball? I don't know.
Yeah, they didn't want it. That's what happened. They didn't want it. That's what we'll say. Yeah, but it was an insane end to the game. It was incredibly stressful to watch. They were coming on really strong. I mean, it was just such a mental game, and every Chelsea game is mental right now, which is something we will talk about in a bit. But the first point in a 3 Points podcast today, guided by me, producer Baz, is midfield madness. We've coined it because there was madness in our midfield. There has been, and there was in this game. It was all on display. Let's talk about it. The three midfielders, Gallagher, Enzo and Caicedo, all had mad moments for different reasons. So, George, talk us through that.
I mean, if we were to bring it back to the pod that we did last week, we have to bring up the Enzo points again because we gave Enzo a hard time last week, and I think it was absolutely warranted, valid, and then what we actually asked for is what he delivered the first game afterwards. So people went back to that podcast and they said that we were idiots for it. Within that podcast, we also said that Conor Gallagher is the undroppable, and then he is arguably the one to make the biggest error of the game. And then, ironically, Caicedo ends the match without a single booking to his name, yet could have easily been sent off 3 or 4 times in that second half. So, how do we piece together this? And I think first of all, let's start with the red card.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about the redemption arc of Enzo Fernandez and whether or not Caicedo was lucky, which he was, for sure.
Conor Gallagher's 2 yellow cards that led to a red. Do you want to dissect the first one and then we'll talk about the second one?
The first one, I think, is very much yellow. And I think when you've got a yellow card, I think there's like a rubber band effect with it. I think you can stretch it to the point where it nearly snaps, where it then becomes a red. Or, as you pull it, it kind of just either... Whatever. You get what I'm trying to say here. I think that is a really strong yellow. That in the current footballing world... could be given as a red because of the ups and downs about how referees make decisions. The referees are just periodically awful right now, so I wouldn't have been surprised even if he sent him off for that. It would have been then a harsh red, but it's a strong yellow. The second one, the more I watch it, the more I think maybe it was the right call. But that's now, though. Now I watch it more and more, and I see that the way his leg goes in, it's only when Gilmour is fully on the floor that he then gets control of the ball. But I actually think the issue here, and I argued this, we argued it with Jord at the house when we were watching the game. The issue is, I think the reason that Gilmour goes down, which is why the referee is called a foul, was because of the shoulder-to-shoulder contact between Gilmour and Gallagher, where 99 times out of 100, Gallagher's going to end up putting Billy Gilmour on the floor.
Yep.
So by that process, that isn't a foul.
No.
So then when Gilmour's already going down, Gallagher has the right to go in then and go to ground to gain control of the ball, which inevitably he does by the end of that whole process. But the more I watch it now, the more I think, well, maybe there's also no foul to give when the shoulder barge happens, but then because he goes in and seemingly doesn't get the ball straight away, that part is what the referee's blown the foul for. Am I just really overthinking this here? Or can we just say the referees again, like, no consistency, what we do?
My perspective on it is that it's borderline whether or not it's a foul. It's not a yellow card.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. It's definitely not a yellow card because it's a fair 50-50 shoulder to shoulder.
I agree with that.
I also think that if you're being really critical of Gallagher, because I would rather a player that was too aggressive than wasn't putting himself into challenges, but it was a bit naive going to... He didn't need to go to ground.
He didn't need to go to ground.
He could have stayed shoulder to
after
shoulder.
Already having a yellow.
Exactly. And they were shoulder to shoulder. If Gilmore just goes down and then Conor Gallagher just keeps running rather than going off his feet, going off your feet like that close to the half, you already got a yellow card. It's unnecessary. He wasn't in like a super dangerous position on the pitch. Our captain got sent off for 2 light yellow cards the week before. It's just not ideal. But I don't think it was a yellow card. I think it was really harsh.
I think it's super harsh too. And I think let's talk about Enzo last because Caicedo, there was quite a few players out there actually that kind of just had the bit between their teeth, I think, in this game. I think all of the Chelsea players, Gallagher included, there was just there seems to be a bit of a rivalry that's built, I think, between Chelsea and Brighton now.
Oh, for sure.
Because of obviously, whenever they do something great, we just come and steal it. It's basically what Brighton fans think about Chelsea. We don't really care about Brighton, but the fact they're good kind of makes us care about them.
Yeah, they rip us off.
Yeah, they rip us off for managers and they rip us off for players. But Caicedo, I think, has been the one who I don't really see as a rip-off. He's still incredibly young. I think we've seen enough in his early Chelsea career to show that he's probably going to be able to be worth it for that kind of price. But in this game, man, the amount... I was sure he got booked.
I did as well. I was convinced he had a yellow card.
I was convinced he had a yellow, and I'm not sat there on my flipping Google has he got a yellow card? No. I was just convinced he got booked.
I don't know if it came up on the TV or if I saw a challenge and I saw the referee showing a card that went to someone else. I don't know, but I had it in my head that he had a yellow card.
But how many times did we think he was going to get sent off?
Mate, he should have had 4 yellow cards. There was 4 different things where he could have had yellow cards.
And this is the problem that I have, which again brings it back to the Gallagher yellow. And this is why we have to keep talking about these stupid referees. Because if you're going to give Gallagher 2 yellows for that, first one, okay, fine, I've got no qualms. Second one, I've got qualms. If you're going to give a yellow card for that one, then surely you realise that Caicedo, even based on this old school totting up procedure, definitely deserved a yellow. But I mean, it's good that he didn't even get a booking.
God, yeah.
Because I think he's 1 booking away from a suspension.
Right.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. I think there's definitely more Chelsea players. Enzo's 1 away, I think, and Sterling's 1 away from a suspension. Enzo Fernandez, though, let's talk about him a little bit here because we did go in on him.
Yeah.
I think very fairly. If you watched the last podcast, and if you didn't watch the last podcast, it's a bit late now because we've already won a game and we got some better energy this week. But 2 goals. You said something really, really good during when we were watching the game together about how just simply seeing Enzo that far up the field is great. Yeah. Actually arriving into the box. I think that was such a strong point about the whole Chelsea performance was when you look at the chances that we created, Brighton actually defended really well.
We were super aggressive. We just flooded the box in the right moments.
Yeah, with the right players.
A lot of big physical players in the side at the weekend. So it was just they just got completely overwhelmed, and I love that. Look, if we've not got a striker that's prolific in the box, then overwhelm them with numbers. That's a good idea as far as I'm concerned. But yeah. Enzo was great. Before we move completely on from Caicedo, I would want to say just how immense he was. I know he should have had a card, but also we were man down, and he was putting in challenges everywhere, and his mobility in that area of the pitch to get the ball into the final third is huge for us. He is so needed just to carry the ball into the right area to release pass. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, Enzo, I wanted to know what you thought about his performance. We've been fairly critical of him, rightly so. But what did you think? Because I personally am not necessarily of the opinion that goals should be how we judge Enzo.
No.
At the same time, the team needs goals. But was he doing what you think he needs to do for us to be successful?
100%. And I think that is why I was so happy, and I think so many people have been so harsh on Chelsea when you think about this game. I've seen a lot of footballing pundits, even ex-Chelsea players, saying that we were actually poor. And they don't really know what they watched in that game, but Chelsea won. I totally disagree. I think the way that we managed the game and the way that we played after we went down to 10 men, even though Brighton had more shots on target, all of these things, I think Chelsea were better than Brighton once we went down to 10 men because Caicedo did such a great job of holding that fort in front of the defence, and Enzo still managed to get forward. And that was obviously not just after the red card too, but that's what we saw just overall in the game from Chelsea in terms of that midfield balance. We were great. I really do think we were great. And I think Caicedo is showing those kind of Kante-esque elements now, where the amount of times we would watch N'Golo Kante play and be like, it's literally like having two men in that midfield. Like when Jorginho was always getting overran because he wasn't very quick. We're always looking at Kante and thinking, it doesn't matter. Look at that Man City Champions League final. That's what he did. And I think Caicedo was doing a lot of that, and he had to, and it made it obvious because we obviously had less numbers. We were getting overwhelmed, potentially, but I think we overwhelmed them. And I think that was because Caicedo would win the ball and move all the way around that, in front of that back line. And then Enzo would be able to then take it forward, which I think is what we're going to probably talk about when we talk about the Man United game, because I think Gallagher sending off probably alters Chelsea's shape a little bit for that match because we've been so reliant on having all three of those available. But for Enzo, I think it was more kind of a relief. Do you know what I mean? Like he's been here for a year. He played 31 Premier League matches before that one. That was his 32nd game. No goals and not many assists. So it got to a point, like you just said, if the striker's not scoring goals, we need goals to come from somewhere else. And we thought he had that in his locker. And we were just simply sat here last week saying, but we're not seeing any of it, so we need to. Do you know what I mean? If we're going to be struggling, someone else has now got to take over the mantle of goals. Lo and behold, he scores 2 within 3 days of us recording that. So either it makes us look silly or just simply we've been paying attention.
Maybe
that's great.
Maybe he's a big fan of the pod, mate.
Maybe he is a big fan of the pod. Maybe, as some of you guys said in the comments, when he went and shushed into the corner flag,
it was directed. It was directed at us.
It was directed at me.
His performance was as hot as that fire, mate.
It was as hot as this fire. Look at this one. This is the blue George Benson Bunsen burner right there. Here's what it is.
Yeah, no, and further to the goals, his passing was really incisive. There was a moment I remember in particular where he set Sterling through. Yeah.
Yes.
And also the other thing I noticed from the first minute was, and the whole team was at it, was his pressing was really good. Like he was up, he was running, he was in their faces, and that's basically what we've been asking for. Like more energy from the lad, you know. Like
I'd say at the minute, if we look to move it into point number 2, though,
the
midfield madness is madness because we had a red card in that midfield, but chaos is being bred by the fact that at the moment we're either playing these super high intensity matches against super high intensity teams or red cards galore.
Yeah,
like the discipline issue is chaotic in itself, but I kind of like it because we had none of this last year.
Yeah,
Chelsea had absolutely. If you watched the second half of last season, there was never a moment where the players, the squad, the manager were animated. There was never a moment where we were leaving a little mark on players. There was never any kind of added impetus to fight.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now everybody out there is fighting, maybe some of them a bit too much.
There was definitely a massive contrast from the passion on display from that Newcastle game to this game.
Yeah.
I think you could characterize Chelsea as a bit of a hot mess right now. You know, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
As long as we're ending up on the right side of the results, you're like, okay, fine. But I think the main thing with top level football is how many things can you control to push games into your favor. And we are not really in control right now. That's the main thing I would say. Like
Did you say we weren't in control of the game against Brighton?
No.
No?
We were the dominant.
I thought we were.
We were the dominant side, but we got the outcome we wanted, but it wasn't in a controlled fashion. I think the game was very, very volatile, and I think that you go a man down. You know, it was crazy. It was a chaotic result, and I don't think we were. It wasn't calm, cool, ice in your veins. You know, we got our couple of goals. Let's control the game now. Shut things out. It was more like we're gonna get there through like raw determination, but it wasn't a controlled performance. I wouldn't characterize it like that at all.
But would you say like that was the case also against Man City then? Because
yes, exactly.
We were good and we matched them, but we never really controlled anything. It always looked like conceding.
I don't think like at any point right now we're like a composed, dominant side that knows that like has the savviness to negotiate a Premier League game without lots of drama. We are just like raw, lots of talent, lots of passion, and that leads to like that basically results in you don't know what way this is going to go.
That is the chaos, though, isn't it?
Yes,
like,
it is.
The chaos at Tottenham was like, how on earth have they not broken down this ridiculous line? And then all of a sudden, bang, 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 3 goals, 4-1. Looks cool, but it's still chaos in within itself because it's like, well, how the hell did you not break that down until like the 75th minute or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Then you've got the City game, which was just pure Barclays. That is pure Premier League. Chelsea somehow pull it out. Man City are obviously now out of form. They've not won in 3, so maybe that wasn't such a great result after all. We should have beaten them 6-4, who knows? And then the Newcastle one is just like 5 minutes of madness, and then the next thing you know, the game is over after being relatively competitive. And then this one was just like, how can we look so comfortable? Like when we scored those 2 goals, identical goals, by the way, Enzo, then Levi as well, delighted for him. I think after that, it's like, blimey, Brighton are literally there for the taking. You then had the Sterling ball into Enzo ball into Sterling one we just spoke about also. So I think we could have really killed them off in that first half, even before the Gallagher sending off. But like, we spent a lot of time talking about the finishing, getting better, and putting the ball in the back of the net. That doesn't seem to be a worry anymore. But the chaos is coming from the other end now. And the red cards.
Yeah.
And like, again, the suspensions, I think Enzo and Sterling are 1 yellow away from a suspension. They'll be able to play against United, who we're playing against tomorrow night. But like, what do you think? Is there an antidote needed to this chaos? And what do you think it is? And it's a great point you made about being in control. What can Chelsea control? If you were to say to Pochettino right now, in order to gain control, we have to somehow put a lid on this chaotic nature of the way that we're playing because it's just too unsustainable.
Yeah.
Is there a way that the Man United game offers the perfect remedy for this?
That's an interesting question. I think that... Well, firstly, I'd say I actually believe that the way we're playing is why we'll beat Man United, because I just think that our midfield intensity is amazing right now, and it's something to behold. Even without Conor Gallagher, I think that Cole Palmer presses really intelligently and can kind of go up into that front 2 pressing role that Gallagher does.
Yeah.
And then he offers a bit of a different profile when he comes deep, but he does come deep and makes passes. So I actually think he's a pretty straightforward introduction into the starting 11 for Gallagher in that game.
So it's still like a 4-3-3, or is it like a 4-2-3-1?
I think when we're attacking, it's a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 or whatever it is. Maybe in defensively it's a 4-4-2 with the 2 pressers. But then I think he can easily slot back into the middle and make a 3. I think he's smart enough to do that. And I actually quite like that role for Cole Palmer. And then he can get up and support. And I
also think Man United have also, without Casemiro's out until Jan. I think Eriksen's out. I think Mason Mount maybe isn't fit.
Who?
I wonder. It would actually be just such a typical Chelsea thing to do, to allow Mason Mount to just come on and just like all of a sudden just be great again. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen, but I actually agree with you. I think we beat Man United.
I think they'll score.
Of all of these games, and we've been kind of like tentatively, quietly walking through and strutting through this period of time.
I wasn't.
But I mean, like, realistically, when we look at the chaos that's been Chelsea just for so long anyway, we looked at all of these fixtures and there was definitely plausible reasoning to say that we couldn't win any of them.
Yeah.
We have beaten Brighton, we have drawn with Man City, and we've beaten Spurs. This Man United game, when I look back to all of these ones, even arguably the Brentford and Arsenal games before when this run really started being tough, I think this Man United one was always one of the winnable ones.
Yeah, I agree.
If you look at their record, they're above us in the league because they've won a lot of games. They've won 8. We've only won, I think, 5. They've lost 6. They haven't drawn a single match in 14 this season. And I would say with all of the Man United games that I have watched, and even if some of them were just like extended highlight videos, which I've watched all of those, I don't think they've ever really been good.
No.
I don't think they play great football. I think they've been incredibly lucky at times. They scored a lot of late goals. They never dominate teams. They never look better than the teams that they're beating, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think they have been so lucky this season to still have... Ten Hag should not be in the job, in my opinion.
I think logically...
Luck has kept him there.
Yeah, logically we should win the game, but also I'm so cautious about making predictions about us right now because we are so chaotic.
We've also not won there in 10 years.
Fine, so that's probably not going to...
Since Fergie left, we've not beaten Man United away.
I did not. That's absolutely insane. I didn't know that. Yeah, but I think you asked me before, like, what can Pochettino do to kind of bring that calmness and composure and get a bit more control over the game? Honestly, the answer is I don't think he can. I think it's a case of what you really need is that like experienced midfield player that just like slows down the pace sometimes, just gets a bit of possession and takes control.
Couldn't that be Palmer?
I don't think he plays deep enough, and I don't think he's mature enough yet. I think like you're looking at like Enzo in terms of his attributes, but like all 3 of those guys who've been playing, Gallagher, Caicedo, Enzo, they're all fiery. Yeah. And I'd say like that composure is just like the one thing that's missing from all their games. I think that will come. I'm not worried about it, but
I think you're spot on there. I think like we're dominating midfields quite often now. Newcastle overran us, but like they seem to overrun everybody right now, including Man United. That was also why I'm so confident we'll beat United, by the way, because that 1-0 was not a 1-0.
We also had, in that game, it was tired legs from international travel, no Caicedo.
Yes.
I don't think Ugo Chuga's up to the pace as the kind of holding guy in that area. So I don't think he's bad. I just think he's that quick with the I think you need legs. Caicedo brings those legs.
And that's maybe the worry, because Gallagher is those legs.
I think he's legs like further up the pitch. He's that final third pressing, isn't he? So I think Palmer can do it. I'm not actually that worried about it.
I'm not worried about this Man United. I'm actually very, very excited for this Man United game.
Yeah.
Because again, we haven't won there in 10 years. If we do get beat by them, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm at now as a Chelsea fan. I got excited after the Brighton game, but not too excited.
I can't agree with you on that. If we lose at Man United, I'll always be devastated.
I never want to lose.
I'll be raging if we lose. I already know I will. I don't care how it happens.
I just want to see us perform. Every game recently, apart from the Newcastle one, we've shown up. We've given a lot. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if we don't show up against Man United, and again, this is Chelsea right now. We're just so up and down. We're so in and out of kind of form, fitness maybe as well. But I think we will miss Gallagher. But I've got to say it now. I'm going to make a prediction for the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to win 4-2.
Okay.
I think Man United are going to score goals. I think Chelsea will bring that kind of open, chaotic nature to Old Trafford. United haven't been scoring many. They also don't concede many either. But I think this game will be between two teams that both have points to prove. Chelsea need points to prove that they belong further up the table.
Yeah. Man
United somehow believe still that they deserve to be higher up the table, even though they've been playing like crap. So I think this game is just going to be chaos again. And pure chaos. 4 a.m. for us.
I have a question for you though, because we saw, because we're bringing that energy and that heat and that's kind of how we're playing right now and getting results. We saw at St James's Park what happened when we didn't keep our heads and they got on top of us for a period of time. We've seen in many games this season the discipline's not been there. We've got cards. So the question is, and this will decide if we win or not, can Chelsea toe that line and find the right balance in the game between being aggressive and energetic and all those things and not letting the Old Trafford crowd influence the outcome, basically?
So I'll tell you the key to this. Mudryk.
Interesting.
If Mudryk can kind of slowly build upon what we saw against Brighton, I think he could be the match winner here for Chelsea.
Wow.
I think this game is Mudryk's stage.
That would be stunning.
I think because we're going to have no Gallagher, Palmer will probably drop back into that midfield, which leaves a space, probably Sterling on the right, Mudryk on the left, Jackson through the middle with kind of Palmer moving forward into that 10 role when we're attacking or whatever. I think this game has got that written all over it for Mudryk. And I think that's where Man United have been lucky this season. They've been hurt at times by counters. They've been hurt by pacey players out wide and whatever. And I think at the minute, you see the interview he did after the game, he's talking about how he really appreciates the support of the Chelsea fans. I think Chelsea fans we're backing him now because we can see that there are those little moments where he can be brilliant and
Glimpses.
He's very close, I think. And I've just got a feeling, because the game will be so wide open, that he's just going to get some space. He's going to get some opportunities. And I've got a feeling he's going to score at least one, maybe two.
I also really like the idea of Palmer playing 10 because it can work both ways. Either, Sterling comes into that inside channel, he can overlap on the outside, take a defender away, get Sterling in the box a bit more, or indeed, the wingers stay a bit wider and he comes into those inside channels. I think you could see some really smart combinations if they get it right.
I think between Jackson, Palmer, Sterling, Mudryk, dynamic movement there, but the potential of that between those four, with kind of the Enzo, Caicedo pivot that we've been kind of waiting for in a way. Gallagher's form, energy, and output has been why he's managed to stay in the team. It's quite, as much as I don't want Gallagher dropped, it's quite exciting to see how Chelsea's shape may change or has to change as a result of Gallagher not being available. So for that, I do think the Enzo Caicedo pivot does probably make us even more fluid going forward. You got Reece James also back for this one too. So I think, obviously, I'll do my preview for the game in more detail tomorrow. But I do have a feeling that Chelsea, this game is there for us to take.
Absolutely.
Man United have not been special all season. What are you looking at on your phone, Harry?
I want to pull up their lineup from the last game because I think that we should. I really want to see what their midfield looks like because I just have this idea in my head that they should get
For somebody who's so obsessed with FPL, you're not very good at navigating their app.
It's because if you actually, George, I am. If you go to the FPL section and click on the teams, you don't get the lineups. However, if you go to this, you get them. So
Man United.
I just want to have a look at what their midfield was last game. So it was, So the actual central midfielders is Scott McTominay, Kobe Mainu. I have no idea who that is.
He's a good player. He's a very good player, to be fair.
And Bruno Fernandes. So I do believe that the boys we've got.
Who was up front? Anthony Martial.
Martial's up front. Garnacho and Rashford on the wings. They're good players. And then a back four of Maguire, Dalot, Shaw, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So
that's not great.
It's not. So I do. But then they are. I guess they're playing a more conservative game that's allowing them to nick these wins.
But they never look close to anything against Newcastle. Like Rashford was caught on the bench saying, like, what was he saying? Like,
what am I doing here?
Yeah, what the F am I doing here? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think
by all the professional lip readers.
I've been saying Man United have been due like a coming down a peg or two result. The Newcastle one I think was granted and warranted. I'm hoping that Chelsea can inflict even more damage and pain to Manchester United. The fans really aren't that happy, despite results being relatively good recently.
Yeah.
Players seemingly not that happy either. But watch Chelsea go and absolutely flump it now, like a flipping marshmallow, and come away with absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and as we were saying, that's the nature of like not having that stable way of playing.
That's the chaos.
Yeah, it is. That's the chaos.
Chelsea Football Club are flipping chaos.
Yeah, it's why every game is so unbelievably entertaining for a neutral right now, and so unbelievably stressful for us. You know, every game we're going to bring passion, which I love, but you just don't know which way it's going to go at any point.
No, I know, and I think we are going to find out tomorrow. My preview for the game is going to be out on GBFC on match day. 6 Things We Learned will be out straight after this game because it is at an unreasonable 4:15 in the morning, but that does mean I can go to bed beforehand and then wake up in order to watch. And that means I can post a video straight away. So stay tuned. If you do want to check out Harry, by the way, you got to go and check out the All Right Harry YouTube channel. It is linked down below. There's going to be like a little tag. You just click on it. You go there. If you didn't see the podcast that I did with Harry, I would suggest starting with that one. And if you enjoy that one, you can then progress onto the other ones. And there is an amazing guest on his podcast this week. Can I say?
Yeah.
Do you want to say it? You tell us who is on your podcast.
We're trying to market it on Intrigue, which is probably a stupid idea. But anyway, George's episode is called "Who Remembers Herder of Buffalo." And we had a guy on this week called Mark Baker, who was absolutely incredible.
Yes.
He has had an amazingly colourful life. He had a seriously troubled childhood, and then he went on to become a world champion skateboarder. He invented club promotion in New York City, and now he lives with a pack of wolves in Bali. So it doesn't really get much more interesting than that. And then I have another one coming out at the end of this week with a massive, massive guest that a lot of you will have seen his videos before on YouTube. So that's a very exciting one to look forward to.
Nice. All right. If you're not already done that, click it right now, and we'll speak to you guys in a bit. See you tomorrow.
Take care, everyone.